is everyone?
What's up guys, Wes here with Rocky Mountain, and this is episode 6 of Roached Racing. Pow! Did you crash already? That's not good, and this thing was a freshie.
I'm in amateur class.
Get it? Bad start. Not horrible though, I guess. Made up a few spots already. Just gotta try not to go down and we'll be good. Ow! That roost hurts. Oh, people down. Charles, right in front of me. Get him around this turn. Let's go, baby! Don't go that way. Come on. Ooh. Where can I pass you? Yeah, baby. Having a good time. Bike seems to be working good. Brakes, power, smooth. I like my grippy seat cover. Woo! Wow, this course is pretty dang fun. Lots of doubleable. Whoops. Don't mind if I do. I'm pretty tired. Little rock garden here. Thank you. Oh crap. That was a close one. I'm like an old grandma. Wow, my mouth is super dry already. Oh, I'm so out of shape. I mean, crap. Well, if you can't tell, I'm pretty dang pooped already. And I'm not even done with one lap. on. Let's go. Get in the flow. I think that's dope. Hey! You! Yeah! Let's do it, baby. Thanks, buddy.
Whoops, are not much stronger.
That was close. Those some pretty big whoops.
If I had energy, this would be really cool.
Well guys, we just finished the race and we don't have much to show for it. Other than this! And this! Woo! Yeah! Welcome back guys. As you can see, we're back in the studio today. We've got the bike all cleaned up and we survived the race. We did it. Good job, Charles.
No broken bones.
That was a good time. Not much to report. There was no DNFs. We had no mechanical issues. The bikes ran awesome and we had a lot of fun. Not much to report other than these woo! Trophies, baby.
What class were you racing?
I was racing open amateur and so third place on this baby.
125 amateur, third place.
Good job, man.
I had a ton of fun. So the start, I actually got a bad start.
Oh yeah.
And so I started in gear and it took a couple kicks for me to get going. We were practicing live starts. We thought it was going to be a live start for some reason.
That's what all the other GoPro online had showed. So that's really why we were thinking that. But they threw a curveball at us and dead engine start. And basically with 05, 06 bikes, no electric start, this thing does not want to start that easy every single time. So it took me 4 kicks to get it going. I think I was last, if not really close to the last one off our line. But we made spots up quick. I don't know, I started powering through and then I saw you go past me and then I gave it a little more throttle. I couldn't let that happen, so I passed you back and then it was a good time.
You picked me off right away after that. But
dude, I was having fun. That track, the track down there, I'd never actually ridden that and it was super flowy and just like all about keeping balance, throttle control, and just railing it. It was a good time.
Yeah. Going over everything because you don't know what to expect, but since we started further back, I was just watching rear fenders to kind of gauge how big the jump was, you know.
Well, and we came around that one first jump and there were 2 guys that wadded it right in front of us. So
yep.
I was like, oh man, 2 people down right off the bat. I hope they're okay. But other than that, I mean, the loop was really fun that they had laid out. It really wasn't, it was technical and rocky in some sections, but flowy in other sections. So I felt like it was a good mix of testing the riders.
There was that rock shelf. Did you get hung up on that at all?
That thing was my nemesis, dude. Like, okay, so the first lap through it, you know, I'm just trying to ride cautious and stuff and like get a feel for the track and try and figure it out. And then by the second loop, start pushing, you know. But that thing, I got really lucky and I was following the guy in front of me. It was really compacted and congested right off the start. And so luckily the guy I was following took the high line and there was some guy stuck in the bottom in the deep hole. And luckily I got past him, but dude, I got stuck in that hole 2 laps after that for 2 of them. And I was like, never again, dude. I will not make that mistake. So on the 4th loop, luckily I stayed high and missed the big holes.
Honestly, that track, the whole loop, it was what, about 13 miles?
13 miles.
The whole thing flowed together really well. I was impressed with the track because it wasn't a super dangerous track. It was fun, a lot of drifting, and then there was a ton of flowy parts, a bunch of S-turns and things. single track throughout the course, and it's a good time.
Yeah, so we each did 4 loops. We didn't get caught by the pros, which was good. And that was about 60 miles. So it was pretty crazy though. Like, a big surprise to me was how much of a sprint it really was. Like, obviously I didn't sprint the whole time because I got tired, but the pros were pushing it the whole time. It was pretty dusty though. I mean, I remember both of us, you came back in the pits and looked like you were missing teeth or something, man. You had so much dirt in your mouth and stuff, and I had a layer of dirt on my tongue. It was pretty nasty, but that's really how desert races are. They're always usually pretty dusty and good times. So
I wasn't drinking either because I did want to do good, but I was super thirsty. So I drank at the pit. And then when I was good, I did stall my bike once. That was terrible. Yeah,
so we did run for 2 hours actually, even though the race was only supposed to be an hour and a half long. So 4 loops, that made it half hour loops, which was a long time, man. That was a long time to go and really just like push for that long. It's pretty crazy though. My buddy's one of the pros. He's second overall the whole race, and he was putting 4 minutes a lap on me. So it's just crazy to think about like how fast those guys are going. I don't know, like at what point did you start getting tired?
I would probably say right around minute 5. So we made it through the track, and then as soon as we started coming through the trees in the single track, got through the whoops, there was that one time when I was trying to pass those guys, and that just gassed me out because I was spending too much energy in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Super tired, and then, like I say, I just regained my energy through the race, and then on the last lap, then it just hit me like a brick wall. Like, I was gassed.
Did your hands go numb at all?
Oh yeah. So I was completely fine most of the time, and then literally on the 4th lap, I don't think I could even feel them. Like, it's just muscle memory. I was like, hey, hopefully everything's working right. And I was just trying to, I definitely couldn't push it. I was just trying to go everything smooth and consistent. And my lap times were actually pretty consistent, luckily.
That's good.
But my hands were so numb that there was this part on the track, there's a do not go ribbon, and somebody blew through it, and the wind was blowing it the other way on a different trail where I'm actually supposed to go. So I got all confused. I turned around, I stalled my bike, and I tried to restart my bike to get back on the right track, and I couldn't restart it, and I couldn't even feel my hot start. I was reaching for it. I know I was pulling it, but I had to take a drink and let the circulation get back in my hands before I could go again.
Even on the first loop, when you're trying to learn the track and stuff, I found myself wanting to kind of like let my mind go blank, because I'm like, if I don't think about how long and how far it is, it almost makes it seem shorter. Like, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but you want yourself to just like, think about whatever you want to, so it feels a little bit shorter.
All right, enough about you. Let's talk about the bike.
I agree. Dude, the bike was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, really, everything that we did to it, no issues. The bike was solid. No mechanical. I would say, I mean, some of the biggest standouts for me, probably the biggest standout for me, was during that long of a race. On an older bike, on a 450, you're gonna be so tired from pulling that clutch in all day. The Magura clutch made such a difference. I one-fingered it all day, and it was perfect. I mean, I never got pumped up, and it just made such a big difference.
Since we're talking about the clutch, what do you think about that Momentum clutch basket? Did it actually make a difference?
I definitely think it made a difference. Like, I know that older bikes, older 450s especially, like, and these CRFs, they do have problems with stalling. And really, if you're doing any type of off-road or trail riding, or probably this would help anybody, but they'll put either a flywheel weight or this new Momentum clutch basket. It's basically a weighted basket that acts the same thing as a flywheel weight and just keeps you from stalling as easily. And I definitely noticed that. I did still stall it a few times, but I feel like it definitely helped prevent that and avoid those issues. So yeah, I would say it definitely made a big difference.
Suspension wise, I mean, we cleaned it up, but we did spend a little bit of time tuning it. We set the sag. How do you feel about that?
I want to talk about suspension because I was a little worried, honestly. I mean, like, obviously I'd ridden the bike a few times before we raced it, and this is stock suspension. I mean, this is a motocross bike. Like, It's a full-on race bike. It's not really built for off-road technical desert riding like what the race is, but I was super impressed. All we did was rebuild the shock and the forks and just freshen everything up. We set the sag and it was freaking awesome. I mean, we spent 30 minutes up on West Mountain, just one of our local riding places, tuning it. It's important to have somebody there to watch what the suspension's doing, and I had Charles out there watching. We made a few clicker adjustments and it made a huge difference. I mean, so like what that tells me is, I mean, obviously, as long as you're in the weight range of your springs, the stock suspension can work really good. So I would say, like, don't just run out and take your suspension to some suspension shop and have them revalve everything and go through it. Work on your stock stuff first, ride it, and get to know it a little bit, you know, before you do that.
Yeah, and setting the sag, that'll tell you if you have the right springs in there. You can go from there. We do have how-to videos for that. And for adjusting the clickers, we've got a how-to on that. Chase goes through that.
Yep.
So one thing I did when we did the forks, since we're doing an off-road race, I put a lower oil height in there. And what the oil height does, it's pretty much mid-range and all the way down from there. So like anti-bottoming. So lower oil height will let it travel a little bit more. And
it wasn't much. I mean, just little amounts, right? I mean,
yeah, not too much. So we weren't at the minimum oil height, just a little more than that. And then setting the clickers, especially that rebound, seems like it was kicking up quite a bit in the back. So we got that rebound slowed down. So the rebound, it can kick up if it's too slow and if it's too fast. So you got to be right there, right in the middle. And then after we set the rebound, we set the compression clickers, get it riding where we wanted it, and looked like it worked pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I do want to say is, like, that's a super common thing is riders feel like they're getting bucked in the back, right? And people automatically think that, oh, like it's the rebound that's springing me up too fast. And so they automatically want to slow down the rebound. And that's actually what we had to do on this bike. We slowed it down a few clicks, but a lot of times that's because your rear end is riding so low in the stroke that once you hit the next whoop, it's not rebounded in that plush area of the suspension. So you're already bottomed almost, and you hit that again immediately, it's gonna feel like it's bucking you too. So suspension's kind of a finicky thing, but like we said, if you have somebody there watching, they can see what your bike is doing and get it set up for you, which is pretty good. I mean, I blitzed one of the gnarly whoop sections and was like, felt like a full-on supercross rider hero, dude. Like, I felt so good and confident. I think a big part of it is that suspension setup and having this bike that is just super stable. So another thing that super duper stood out for me right off the bat was the Rider Triangle setup that we did. So we swapped out for some aftermarket foot pegs. They have way more grip than the stock ones that were on there. They were super worn out. So having those coupled with our aftermarket seat cover and the bar and grip setup, just like, I was immediately comfortable on this thing. And I think already Hondas are known for that. They've really got the ergo thing dialed, especially with these years and newer. But yeah, right off the bat, I was comfortable, confident with the bike setup.
Yeah, so these bars are actually pretty close to that stock bend.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of had to move them around a little bit where you wanted them, move the levers, adjusted them up to where he's comfortable, and it seems like it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, that brings up a good point. Don't get used to bent levers. Like, I mean, I see it all the time, like with people we run into riding, they've got levers that are bent all up or back or whatever. Those are cheap enough to replace, so please replace them. And if you're crashing like that, get some wraparound handguards to protect your levers. Like, that type of thing makes such a huge difference to where you're comfortable on the bike. It does a huge thing for affecting like arm pump and getting pumped up if you have them in the right place and where you're comfortable. So
not only in the right place, but you know, as time goes by, you're gonna wanna lube those throttle cables up, and we don't have a clutch cable anymore, but if we did, you definitely want to be lubing that kind of thing up to keep it smooth.
I want to talk about the tires, man. They were awesome the whole race. I mean, any condition, it was a few different conditions. I mean, we rode the track, we had a whole desert loop, we had mud, we had
a little bit
silty
of sand in there.
Sand and dirt and everything, and these tires hooked up everywhere. And yes, the rear is showing some wear, but I would say that like the MX-52 set, Yeah, it's not your longest lasting tire, but it gives you the best grip. I mean, I wasn't lacking for traction really anywhere. I was very impressed. And that coupled with the 18-inch rear wheel that we threw on here was just perfect for off-road riding.
Yeah, because you rode it before with the 19, right? How much difference did you feel from the 19 going to the 18?
It was just a lot more plush. I mean, like, I wouldn't say I'd be comparing apples to apples, because where I really noticed it is like on the rocks and the square edge stuff that we ran into down in Green River. I really was getting feedback in the rear end from that, but I don't know if it was the same thing, but I mean, I would say it definitely made a difference.
Yeah.
And the next thing I want to talk about is just the engine. I mean, we went completely through this thing, top to bottom, and it was reliable the whole time. I mean, everything that we did to it, we did a whole engine rebuild kit. We added an FMF full exhaust on the thing, and the engine's super smooth. It's got a ton of power. I was stoked on it. I was having a ton of fun on the 450. It was a good time.
Yeah, and it's not like we were doing mods, getting real crazy with it where it's going to be unreliable. It's making a ton of power with a reliable setup, so
yeah, basically
should give us a lot of use.
Basically a lot of stock. I mean, everything is still stock essentially as far as specs and stuff go, so this thing should be reliable for years to come. And I guess the last thing that I want to talk about on this thing is just how it turned out. I don't think any of us can disagree that this bike looks good. And still, I mean, after 2 hours of hard racing, it still cleans up awesome. I mean, this bike looks trick. I love the black and red color scheme that we did on it, all the anodized parts that we added to it. Everything still looks good after 2 hours. So I would say all that was worth the investment. This thing is, I'm proud of this thing. Even though it is 14 years old, it's a solid bike. What did we learn with this whole process, this whole journey? And really what stood out to me was that old bikes can still be competitive and fun and reliable. And at the end of the day, after everything we did, a new bike is still a lot more expensive than what we did with this bike. And look, we went out and raced this thing with new bikes. I would say the biggest thing for me really is the electric start was a disadvantage, or was an advantage for all the other guys. No electric start was a disadvantage for Charles and I because we were last off the line.
Yep.
Dead engine start. So I don't know, either I need to work my leg muscles out and get better at kicking bikes, or I don't know.
Yeah, those are really good points, but just from what I noticed from a mechanical perspective is some of the costs on this kind of started adding up only because we bought a bike we knew nothing about, it didn't run at all, and then we had a lot of unforeseen costs, mainly transmission gears and that main shaft, and then also we had that cam chain tensioner that wasn't working.
That's true.
Well, what blows my mind, okay, so the transmission gear almost melted onto the shaft but didn't.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a ton of metal coming off that, and then it wore a groove big enough and mushroomed out enough where the gear couldn't actually come off.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that's a weird one. I've never seen that. So
this bike has definitely had some use. And so you guys avoid all the problems we ran into with this bike, please check out our How to Buy a Used Bike, because that will help you get the points and items that you need to look at to avoid getting a roached out bike like this one and avoiding a lot of those extra costs that we ran into and just saving yourself some of those dollars.
But on the other hand, if you find the right bike, it can be a ton of fun fixing it up and racing it, and it still can be competitive, obviously.
It was a great journey. We had a really good time, both of us, putting this bike together, tearing it down, doing all the work. We had a lot of fun, had a lot of laughs, a lot of unexpected issues, and a lot of unforeseen problems that we ran into with this bike.
And a lot of OT.
And a lot of late nights in the shop.
It was worth it in the end though.
It was all worth it in the end. It was a solid journey, and we really appreciate you guys following along with the build series. Now, if you want to see other builds like this, we want to too. So let us know, comment below, let us know which bike you think we should be working on next. And if you guys want a real quick recap on all the parts and accessories that we added to this bike, check out the bike build for it, because it'll give you a real quick rundown of everything that we did to this bike. And don't forget that we have all the parts and accessories you need to keep your old bikes running, reliable, competitive, and fun. So check out our website, www.rockymountainatvmc.com.
In true Roach fashion, we want to send some quick still to the best comment below that makes us laugh the hardest.
That's right. I will personally buy you a bottle of Quick Steel so you can fix your swing arm when you get a huge gashing hole in it, just like the one that was on this bike, and then powder coat over it and try and cover it up, but then not cover it up with a sticker.
Do it fast, do it right.
Okay, that does it for us. Good job, Charles. Thanks guys so much for watching. Share this with your riding buddies, and we out.
Woo!
Behind the scenes, people want to know how we filmed this video. We got to do a how this was filmed. And you're going to just be like, we're poking around. I'm going to die. Ouch.